All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome back. We got Jeremy Taggart, Pittsburgh agent broker. So, welcome, Jeremy.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we got MJ, Chicago investors. It's been a while, man. How you doing?
Good morning. Thanks for the invitation. I'm good.
Yeah, man. So let's get right into it. Hold on, let me just go live on Instagram here. All right, there we go. Yeah, so let's go. I put the link to this YouTube video that MJ sent me the other day. I thought it was pretty interesting. Had some interesting takes on some things. But basically, it's kind of is the game rigged, right? And are we losing as individuals and whatnot? So maybe MJ, is this the first time you saw that video? Maybe you can touch on that since you sent it to me.
Yeah, first time I saw the video, I'll be coming up across a lot of a variety of videos as I drive and just able to listen a lot throughout the day. This interview video was very interesting just to see the mindset perspectives of people, whether they was, and I like the dynamic they was putting. They, obviously had their name and their salary they earned for the year. So depending on whether they was considered poor, middle class, or wealthy, they had different perspectives on was the world, the economy rigged. Um, so it was very interesting just to see different perspectives of people at different income levels of what they view was rigged or not.
Yeah, sorry, man. I didn't even MJ, give everyone a little background. It's been a while since you've been on here. So tell everyone where you invest, where you're at, and your portfolio size right now.
Right. Okay. So I'm MJ. Those are my initials, and I like Michael Jackson and Michael Jordan as well. I was born and raised in Chicago. I have two duplexes at the moment. In process of getting a third uh, property. It would be maybe a single family, maybe a rehab property. So I'm kind of scared and nervous and excited about that all at the same time. But been investing over maybe 2.5, 3 years now, and ran across Zuber like many of us did years ago. And I went to the first all-right event in Vegas. That's why I met Mark. And from there, me and Mark, I always stayed in communications and constant. We done a couple of live streams together. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Cool, man. It's always good to have you here. Everyone loves when you're on. They think you're very informative and entertaining. And then a lot of people been catching on Jeremy. Jeremy's been on more recently. He's focusing a little more on the lead gen social media side. So Jeremy is a rock star agent in Pittsburgh. He just was featured on Bigger Pockets also. So go check out that episode. But Jeremy, did you get a chance to check out that video?
Not the whole thing. I started watching some of it though. Definitely interesting as far as was it they had wealthy people and then not wealthy people kind of give their own opinions on the same topics when it comes to money and the economy and stuff. So definitely an interesting, like I said, slightly polarizing, I guess, video for sure.
Yeah, and if anyone doesn't know, Todd Baldwin was also in that video, and he used to be kind of a regular on Zuber's channel. He did have his first child, I believe, maybe within the past year, so he's kind of been off social media, and he hasn't been on Zuber's channel, but he was on there. It's very interesting. So he's successful real estate investor, but came up with a poor upbringing. I think, kind of a broken household from what he speaks on. So it was very interesting to see his take on things, but especially like in today's kind of where we're living now, right? And a lot of the divide politics, the wealthier are getting wealthier, the poor feel like they're getting poor, and there's such this wealth gap, right? So I know MJ, you touched on, off camera, I want to kind of know for sure, like, were you kind of middle class upbringing, poor, and you kind of confirmed that you kind of on that poor side upbringing, right? So how has all of this getting into real estate been for you?
Yes, most definitely grew up poor. But when you're younger and a kid, you don't understand it. You sometimes you just I thought it was just me. I just thought that's just how life was and it was normal and regular. So obviously you get more aware, more conscious of yourself surroundings and things of that nature. You meet people, you travel, you kind of realize, oh, this really not normal. I mean, but it definitely been a full circle for me. I'm gonna say a 270, not a 360, because I think a 360 you kind of fall back to where he was initially. But yeah, being growing up poor and kind of having more control of my finances and stuff now, it makes me more proud and motivated. I think the ball is in my court. I mean, before when I was a kid, I just all I knew, and that's not kind of just had to go by a set of rules because that was only thing introduced to me. Now, in this free market, essentially, now we all can be self-made millionaires or financially free. So
Sorry, I want to say what's up to Jim, grumpy contractor who's here. So I know he reached out to Jeremy after the last live, and he was very impressed at Jeremy's information and quick response. So just letting you know, Jeremy, Jim was very grateful for the information you provided for him. And Steven is here. He's also a new member in the school community, and he may be hitting you up also, Jeremy. He's in Canada, I believe, but he's looking to invest out of state, and Pittsburgh is one of the markets on his list. So he does know about you, and he kind of tuned in. I think he want to get more information from you. But Jeremy, I know you are also, I believe, 7-time house hacker, right? And a lot of people, that's their foot in the door to get into real estate. Do you think, like, did you do house hacking because you grew up poor, or like you had a middle class? Where did the house hacking come from for you?
I think it's because I was younger. So I discovered real estate when I was in college. So I didn't have a family, obviously, right out of school, and I didn't have a lot of money either. So it was kind of a perfect storm of I could do it because I didn't have kids or anything. I think sometimes that can get in the way if people are starting later, but it was essentially a no-brainer for me because no money, no kids, why not type deal. And being in a cheaper market, the numbers made sense. We had a lot of multifamily properties. So it was just a no-brainer as far as my first property goes. And then kind of just went from there after that, as far as the house hacking goes.
So I think one of the kind of topics in the video was on is being poor, or on being poor, is it like a choice? Do you have a choice, right? And I think that even comes down to like the house hacking, right? Not everyone wants to do it, right? There's certain reasons, but it is a choice, right? And MJ, like you said, do you think being poor, is it a choice, or what is people's options out there?
in my opinion, being poor, it got levels to it. So I feel like obviously you born into poverty or less fortunate, you kind of really don't got a choice. You just kind of got to go with the cards you've been dealt. I feel like once you get to a certain age and a certain awareness around you, I feel like if you decide to continue to be poor, I think at that point that's a choice. I think obviously you born into it, you kind of got a grace period. It's like your grandfather then, right? So I'm gonna say from birth to maybe 18, 20 years old, you kind of get an idea of like, okay, this the cards I've been dealt, let me just play my hand the best way I can. But once you kind of get 18, 19, 20, 21, you kind of got more control over your situation. So I feel like from 21 on up, if you still decide to be poor at that point, it's definitely a choice.
What about you, like you, Jeremy? Because I know, like for me, right, like Hawaii real estate is expensive, right? So the choice for me was, am I going to try to figure out how I can invest here where it's very difficult to make anything work, or am I going to look elsewhere, where maybe it's a little more risky? I'm investing in a market 6,000 miles away. I don't really know anyone initially in the beginning, right? So people do have options to where they invest, right? So I think that's the same thing almost to some extent on poor being a choice. I know people do have difficult upbringings, right? And it is different challenges for some, but as far as for you, like, do you see that's why a lot of people also start investing remotely or out of state because they're trying to find a different avenue out or different choice for themselves?
Yeah, I think the original thing, at least for me, I think a lot of it's just having that knowledge. Because if you grow up poor, and especially with how our education system is, they don't teach you about building wealth, at least through the non-standard path. So I think a lot of it's just getting that initial knowledge piece to be even able to make a choice, really. So I think that's kind of the first hurdle. But yeah, once you get past that and you do know that there is options that you can make those choices to either become wealthy or not, then it becomes a matter of, I think, sacrifices. Some people just don't want to make sacrifices, and that's the reason that they can't get ahead financially. So that's a big part of it as well. That would be like the second phase, I guess you could say. And a lot of it, I don't know. I don't view it as a huge sacrifice, especially a lot of times it's a short term sacrifice from that standpoint. But yeah, if you do have all the knowledge in your head to be able to make that decision, and there's nothing preventing you from kind of making the decisions to increase your wealth and just financial runway, then it just becomes, yeah, I think just a matter of doing it and taking action and maybe making some short-term sacrifices, which I think are essential in that path in general.
Yeah, MJ, I'm not sure if you also watched the entire video, but to me, there were some points where I'm just like, see, these people are saying, and I don't know if they're complaining is the right word, but they're saying they're addicted to gambling. She's addicted to vaping and weed, and she's like, I get my money and I go buy all these things because it takes me away from how poor I'm doing, I guess, right? And it's like, I guess like you talked about you kind of maybe had a gambling issue or problem before, right? And you made that choice to cut that out of your life and start looking at building a financial future for yourself, right? So how did that make you feel seeing that part of the video?
Yeah, I did watch the video to its entirety, and I could definitely relate to her once upon a time with her mindset as far as, oh well, if I just win this amount of money, I'm gonna just quit and stop, and my problems will be subside, and et cetera, et cetera. It's a sad reality. Like Dion, Financial Talk always says, gambling is just a poor for tax. I mean, it's a tax for poor people. And I was watching a podcast not too long ago. It was talking about the people from the Bahamas. They call it Bohemian people. They are not allowed to gamble. And that kind of like they're not allowed to gamble nor have firearms. But that just made me realize like a lot of people, governments, and countries really care for the people. Don't get me wrong. We got a lot of things in the U.S. that we good at, especially capitalism and stuff like that. But it's a lot of things that don't get talked about enough, that everything is for sale here. So if they can sell you on the gambling, the narcotics, the cigarettes, the whatever people may indulge in, and I'm not against anyone doing anything. I'm just looking at it from a different standpoint. It's it's like they really don't they care as much as we care about certain things. So if we want to gamble, they give us the free will to do this, but they obviously know the consequences of doing things excessively. So to simply answer your question, it was I definitely can resonate, but it's like a cycle. She would never get out that cycle till she changed her mindset for sure. She gotta stop that completely, and just the entitlement sometimes people think they have because they've been pampered with things for so long to where it's just a routine for them. So it was pretty sad for me. Yeah.
Yeah, like you mentioned, right? She always kind of mentioned like, oh, if I just got this 60K payday or so, like it would solve everything, right? And you kind of notice that a lot of them, it was the billionaires are the problems, right? Now, if these people just paid more, then everything would be solved, right? So Jeremy, what's your thoughts on that? Like, should we have billionaires in this world? Do they should they be paying more or their fair share? I guess some people would say.
Yeah, I think that stems from mindset as well. That's a big one alongside just having the education. But should there be billionaires? I mean, it's kind of how the system's set up with capitalism and everything. It's if somebody wants to work harder or smarter, I don't think they should be necessarily penalized because of that. I think if you do have that amount of money, you probably should have a little more responsibility with it, just in general, in my opinion at least, not to be wasteful. Although I mean it's up to everyone, but technically they do tax you more the more you make, but once you get to a certain point, you use the tax code to your advantage and you sidestep that. So that's once you reach kind of the excess, I guess you could say. I think it's just people say that because they don't know how things work, which stems back to the education side of it, just having that knowledge. If they knew how it worked, they may have a differing opinion on it. But I kind of blame our education system in general for not necessarily teaching them how it works. So that's part of the problem, in my opinion, just is that. But I get it because you don't want everyone, I guess, to have the ability to become a billionaire because I don't know how the economy would do at that point. So it's set up the way it is for a reason, but it creates problems like this with the haves and have nots, specifically when it comes to those types of things, like people's opinions and how they operate and stuff. So I don't know. That's just my rough opinion on that, I guess.
Yeah, I did put the link to the video again in the chat. So if anyone wants to go check it out after, go check it out. It was definitely interesting. But to your points, Jeremy, I think a lot of it too, like you're saying, is how it's being portrayed, right? So, definitely the media plays a role in it, right? Like these people are the ones holding you down, or these are the evil people because they make this much money. And like you said, a lot of people may not understand how things somewhat work, right? So it's interesting where I think he's like a financial consultant in kind of the record label space. He also said too, but he was telling the one individual about, do you know how much capital certain people invest and how many actually succeed, like in the music industry, right? Like all these, you're investing these money in all of these artists, and only like maybe one out of 1,000 or whatever actually succeed, right? So this person is risking this much money, and yet other people only seeing like, oh, they're exploiting these other people because they're taking this much of the person's record deals and whatnot, right? So but the poor person, I guess you'd say, it was kind of, they were shocked by like, wait, what are you talking about, like risk, or they didn't quite understand it. And I think that, like you're saying, right, it's just people don't see the bigger picture. And part of it is, like you're saying, the educational system. Like, I definitely think the media plays a big role in it. Ned does say, kind of on your point, I think the struggle is correlative primarily with how hard you push yourself to keep costs down and how much leverage and risk you take. Some do both and some do either. We choose our hard. And a lot of it, like you said too, right? Like, I think Hyder touches on it too, is it's just the free or opportunity for everyone can be a billionaire, but most likely a lot of people aren't going to strive for that, right? There's some people that just want to work and watch their Netflix and pay their bill, and they're fine with that, right? But that's also where the question comes in. I think part of it is the system rigged, right? So I think that was one of the big discussion points in the video, right? Do you have a thought on that, MJ? Like, is the system rigged?
The system is rigged to the unknowns, to the uneducated, to the uninformed, to that point. Because if you know what you know, you understand it's a game, and once you understand, the more capital you willing to risk, the potential bigger payout it is. And so, like employees, it's always a big debate or conversation. Oh, minimum wage should be, more and more and more. But it's like, well, that person got a guaranteed job, guaranteed income. They didn't take really no risk, for the average Joe. I'm not, talking as a whole, but just the average Joe. And I just feel like it's rigged to the uneducated. The more you know, like I say, education before compensation. The more you know, the more you get in these rooms, the more you meet people, the more you invest in something, you see the product of your investment, or your risk, or your hard time, or the tenants, termites, and toilet issues for real estate, and said so. You got to be able to risk something to be able to get those freedoms. And the people who risk it more than likely are the successful ones, the ones that was able to consistently risk and learn and get better and come up with processes and systems. So it's rigged to the uneducated and uninformed, in my opinion.
Any thoughts on that, Jeremy, about the system? Is it rigged, or why are people being held back by the system, maybe?
Yeah, I agree with MJ on that. It's rigged to the uninformed because it's not full transparency, I guess you could say, as far as that goes. They set it up the way they do on purpose. But if you can kind of break through that barrier and get to the other side, so to speak, of realizing how everything works, then it's not rigged at all. So it is to a certain degree, I would say, specifically pinpointing on them controlling kind of what the masses see, and for a reason, I guess. But yeah, to a degree.
Yeah, I think Hyder always comments it quite a bit, right? When talking about the economy too, right? The economy, I guess maybe, or the system is not really rigged. That's just what the economy or the system is, right? So, like you're saying, you may feel like it's rigged, but that's just because you don't really maybe know what the rules of the game are, or you're not paying attention to what's going on. So, not necessarily it's rigged, but that's just what the system is, right? And I think one of them brought it up also in the video that the information is available, and maybe it is a little more difficult for some to access it, but essentially the information is out there, and now it's for you to take advantage and use it. So I think even one of them was talking, oh, Todd Baldwin was talking about, if I use the tax code or whatnot and to lower my income and pay less taxes, am I wrong or bad? And the guy's like, yeah, you are. And he's like, Todd Baldwin was like, wait, if I use the tax code, you're telling me I'm a bad person? And the guy's like, yeah, you're a bad person. And
He
so I
could do the
think,
same thing
yeah,
if he
exactly,
made
right.
if he put effort into it, because effort is a choice at the end of the day. If he's aware that it's a thing, then he is not making an effort to put into it to do the same thing,
Yeah.
in my
So
opinion.
no, absolutely. But I think, back to kind of how the education is set up, the system, and the media, it's people think that they're being held back for whatever reason, right? Or you're evil or wrong to want to do better to some extent, right? Like they're almost like telling you shouldn't strive to be a billionaire because you're going to be this evil person if you do, right? If you want that for your life, right?
Yeah, because I think that guy made maybe 40,000 a year, and he was considered poor. And instead of him taking accountability and maybe seeking information and being curious to know how is he able to take advantage of the tax code, it's just a blame game. It's just, oh well, I make 40,000. Why should you make 250, 300,000? Then Todd thinks that's something to the extent of, well, this the law. Well, then the guy was like, well, all laws are not fair, and it's just like victim shaming versus taking accountability for his personal situations, personal action. You make 40,000 a year because you decide to make 40,000 a year. That, in my opinion, I mean,
Yeah, it comes back to the mindset side of things.
There was a question though from Flavio for you, I think on the house hacking, Jeremy. It was, oh, do you wait for a year to jump to next house hack?
Yeah, you're supposed to live there for a year. I've stretched that a little bit on a few of them. Close enough, 10 months type deal, but yeah, a
Yeah,
year is the
I know.
ratio.
See, Flavio's always trying to make trouble. I knew you were trying to get you on air saying, Harrison is here. Harrison will be on tomorrow with Kevin Rappert, a firefighter in the Bay Area doing self-storage. He's going to walk through a deal he just did recently, or he actually sold one of the first self-storage that he did purchase. So he's going to walk through that. But Harrison says, now that AI is available to easily look up and save on taxes, people have no excuse to not try and learn how to save money. Yeah. MJ, when's the last, have you used AI recently? What's the last thing you used AI for? Or Chat GPT or whatnot?
yeah, just asking ChatGPT certain questions I'll probably ask Google to do. I just like it a little better because it's like more precise, more detailed, and more quick, more efficient. It seems like so. Just asking random questions of the economy and stuff like that.
What about you, Jeremy? Have you used, what's the last thing you looked up on AI or Chat GPT or whatnot?
Yeah, it's my new Google, basically. I don't even really use Google much anymore. Anything that I'm looking up or whatnot is ChatGPT essentially at this point. I don't know what the last thing is though,
Yeah.
specifically.
I know a lot of guys are using it for their buy boxes
Oh,
now.
I think I looked up how historically bad the Pirates offense is right now.
Oh,
Because I saw a stat, I was watching the game, it said their ERA was their starting pitcher ERA was 1.95 in May. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. I'm like, I don't think we've won that many games. What is our record in May?
They're
I
keeping
think we're
property
like,
values down. That's what we need. We need the Pirates to start doing better so they can bring property values up.
yeah. So I'm like, what is the Pirates record in May? I think it was like 2-7. Like, how do you have a 2-7 record when your starting pitcher's ERA is under 2? It's so bad.
Yeah.
The
So,
White Sox we about in that same ballpark too, which
Yeah.
definitely sucks. Yeah.
oh yeah, you
The
guys are
battle of
bad.
who can be worse.
But at least you guys got the Bears, MJ. At least we got the Bears.
You mean the Cubs?
And
No, we have the Bears. Uh, hold
Well,
on. Let's get back to topic, right? Let's see. So okay, so another question or topic in that in that video was more money, more problems. What's your guys' thoughts on that, MJ?
more money, different problems. I think problems gonna always exist. It's obviously how you treat them and go about them. With more money, I think it's just different problems. Maybe certain things you wasn't used to dealing with. Being on top of your finances, stuff like that. I don't necessarily think it's more problems. I just think it's different problems from what you had before.
Jeremy, thoughts on that? Oh, wait, how's it? So now being on bigger pockets, is that counted more money, more problems?
yeah, maybe. Um, I think I agree with MJ on that. They're different problems, and I think you can get sucked into more problems in the transition from, say, poor to wealthy if you don't do it properly. Like, say, if you're still having some of the poor mindsets and way of doing things like an employee, you're trying to do everything yourself, that's when you can get stuck in the no man's land of more problems until you figure out how to maybe start outsourcing or build a team and stuff. And then it just becomes different problems. But at every rate, every step of the way, you're going to have problems regardless. It's just a matter of what type of problems. I would rather have the financial problems than the problems from being poor and not being able to kind of get past that initial phase of just necessities and being able to live a good life, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly right. I think that, like MJ said, more money, different problems. And I think I talked about it the other day, but Ken McElroy had I think a post on Instagram, but it was like cash flow solves problems. Net worth or equity gives you options, right? So, definitely, it's how you look at problems, but that's also why you want to build up the financial stability so that your cash flow or your money can solve these problems that you're saying, right? And definitely the more cash flow you have makes it easier to navigate those situations. Let's see. Harrison said, "Do you think Aaron Rodgers joining the Steelers could raise property values?"
I hope he does not join the Steelers. He's out there at concerts and stuff. I don't know if you saw the latest video, the Mike concert. He has a squirt gun. He's squirting Mike on stage.
Yeah, he's I mean, I when he was at his peak, I thought
Oh,
he was amazing. Yeah,
he
he
was
was.
great.
I'm surprised he only has one ring, but
I think he needs to hang it up, though, in my opinion.
yeah, Hyder's gonna say football is not, or he's gonna say something about football pretty soon. But Hyder said, "I don't think money can make someone happy in their own skin. If someone is unhappy with themselves, money aren't going to help while they're alone." Yeah, very true. I think, um, but having money definitely, like you said, it gives you options, right? It can make things, like better food, better healthcare, more travel experiences, whatnot. So money does play a big role in it. Okay, Harrison. All right, I got it. All right, Harrison, we'll figure it out though, because Kevin's trying to switch the times tomorrow. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, how's this question? Uh, let's say you had to survive on $15 an hour starting tomorrow. What would change in your life? MJ, go.
The way I live, I have to live way more below my means. I'll have to figure it out at the 15 per hour wage. I'll have to act my wage. So it'll be tough, but I'll have to make some definitely some adjustments in my life and lifestyle, which is I got a simple, pretty basic lifestyle. I don't do nothing too fancy or extravagant. So it wouldn't be too hard to adjust. I mean, it will because that's a low number, but I will figure it out. I will figure it out.
Jeremy, for you, if you had to survive on $15 an hour starting tomorrow, what would you change in your life?
Just 15 an hour, nothing else, no assets.
Yeah. So I guess, kind of like minimum wage, I guess, in a sense, right? If
It
whatever
wouldn't be
put.
that much different than less than 5 years ago. I mean, that's what I was doing up until recently, honestly, aside from like taking trips and stuff. But yeah, I mean, not much would change on my end. I'm sure like in a few years, my lifestyle will be different than it is now. But aside from doing some extra vacations and stuff each year,
But to that
probably
point,
dang
but
near that right now.
but to that point, I mean, maybe your vacations and trips are different and you're not showing it. But a lot of times I see, what you're posting on social media. A lot of times just more outside adventures in a sense, right? Hiking trails, right? So you're seeing different parks and things. So I'm not really sure how much you're spending on these vacations, but it also seems like,
Yeah.
yeah. So like your lifestyle, like you say, yeah, you're taking vacations, but you're also finding ways to make it cost effective and still not break the bank in a sense, right?
Yeah, that's me and my wife. That's our specialty is always finding the value and doing the maximum enjoyment on the least amount of money. So I just view it as a game, I guess.
Let's see what else we got here. Oh, let's see. It's a good one. I came up with Chat GPT today. What privilege do you think you have that you didn't realize until recently? You can go first, MJ.
Access to information. I think that's definitely been the game changer. If I would have had access to this information 5, 6 years ago, I would have been on my journey long ago. Could you just look at what's his name from? Is it Cody, the 22, 23-year-old millionaire
Yeah,
that Zuber
Cody.
interviews sometimes? Right.
Yeah,
So
Cody.
him, like his information, obviously maybe exposure and being around the right people, but just the access to information nowadays is everybody taking it out. I mean, he got access to the information and met the right people, and then it's changed his life easy and early on. So for me, access to information.
Yeah, it's just a matter of when you learn that, really.
Question for you folks from Harrison. Jeremy and MJ, do one room apartments rent well in your markets? Jeremy, you can go first.
One bedroom apartments, I guess. Yeah, I mean they rent pretty quick. They turn over more, I would say. So that's a downside of them, but there's pretty good rental demand for them. They go fairly quickly in most areas.
MJ, you have experience with that in your area, in your market?
I personally don't have any one bedroom apartments or units. I know of a person who do, and he's in a great rental market, and even still, it's a high turn on him. It's a high, maybe somebody stay a year, 2, 3 at the most, and he keep turning the unit. So yeah, it's a because it's normally for like a single person, maybe a couple or some of that sort. They might just be in town, relocating to if they want to settle down in the city or state or whatever. So I just heard of it being not having a good you constantly turning the unit essentially.
Yeah, I all of mine are two bedrooms or more also for that reason.
Harrison also asked, on $15 an hour, would you guys choose van life? MJ, what about you?
What's van life? Oh, to actually live in a van?
Yeah, so people kind of
Oh,
custom build these vans where it's almost like an RV, but in a van, much smaller and very bare bones lifestyle.
if I had to make $15 an hour and want to be financially free, I'd do what I got to do. I'll probably get the gym membership, take showers there, maybe live in a live somewhere, rent out a one bedroom for this matter. The van life, I don't know. I ain't too convinced on that. That'll be the last resort, absolutely last resort. I'll be at work so much that I wouldn't even need to be in the van. But yeah, hopefully, yeah.
If I wasn't married, I'd be doing the van life right now.
Exactly. That is the that is
I'd
the
be
big
showering at the gym, sleeping in the van, and I'd be out west at hitting all the parks and everything. But unfortunately, that's not in the cards when you're married.
yeah. So this is kind of for you, Jeremy, because Steven reached out to me. I told him, maybe do a little bit of research in the market first for Pittsburgh. But he said, should I do research about the market I'm interested in before reaching out to any real estate agents and property managers? Do agents get annoyed? So what is your take on that? Or should Steven just reach out directly to you?
I think it's helpful to kind of nail down your market first, or at least a short list of markets, and learn enough about the market to be dangerous, I guess, to the point where then you can talk to an agent to get specifics as far as like numbers, what's doable in the market, what types of properties are there, return expectations, etc. But I would do a little bit of upfront initial due diligence rather than just saying like me, if I was an investor out of state, just randomly picking a market and calling an agent with no background knowledge whatsoever on the market. That the agent might be taken aback then if they're teaching you everything from scratch, like if you call them and say, I don't know where Pittsburgh is, but I'm interested in investing there type deal, like maybe do a little bit upfront. I would say probably, but you don't have to be an expert on the market by any means, because the agent, that's their job, is they know the market like the back of their hand, so they can quickly tell you information that you might not even be able to access online as far as actual specifics to allow you to really make that decision if you want to invest there or not.
Yeah, so Stephen, like I think I messaged you, maybe reach out to a lot of the folks, in the school community who is investing in Pittsburgh and have touch base with Jeremy, and then you can kind of get a feel for that. And if you do want more information, you can always reach out to Jeremy and whatnot. So, but yeah, reach out to the people in school, get kind of a little information from them also, not just my opinion on it, but just realize Pittsburgh has terrible sports teams. So if you're into sports, that's one thing. But Hyder
You can
does.
only say that right now.
Absolutely, man.
Kick us
Uh,
while we're down, huh?
yeah. Well, Frank's not here, and Frank is a Steelers fan. So old guy REI tunes in once in a while, but he's a Steelers fan. Hyder says, I don't think money can make some. Oh no, wait, not that one. Where's the other one? There was one I skipped. Oh, question: if I provide 1 cent worth of value to everyone on Earth, would I be worthy of earning 80 million? If I provide, hmm, I think
What do they
any.
say? It's a inch deep, a mile wide. That's the saying, right?
Huh?
You'd rather be a mile deep, an inch wide.
Well, I think for me, it's always looked at as like everyone is worthy of it in a sense, right? Everyone should have that opportunity. If you provide value and people are willing to use that value and there's a need for it and they're going to pay you enough to get to 80 million, then absolutely it's for your taking, right? Now it's just a matter of um, if people are going to, I guess, allow you to earn that 80 million if the value you're providing is worth it. But in all sense, you should have every opportunity if you're what you're providing is worth it and people see it as useful enough. And but no one should be stopping you from making that 80 million is my as long as you're not doing anything illegal and criminal activity, but you should have that opportunity to make 80 million. Um, Ned here. A good agent is dangerous to your net worth as they're going to sell you whatever and make you feel great about it. Now, finding an agent with a rental portfolio they acquired on their own, they can be an accident, but you still need to be able to call bullshit and make your own decision. Oh, they can still be an asset. Yep, definitely. I think that's why a lot of people too they like touching base with Jeremy too, because he's done the house hacking. kind of gone through the sacrifices. He knows the market very well. He grew up there, right? So, um, but Jeremy, just quickly, maybe because someone did send this to me. If you can have maybe a quick, if you know, 15102 Bethel Park zip code and 15129 South Park Township. If you have a quick, maybe good, bad, stay away quickly, I guess, as an investment.
Bethel's it. Yeah, that's solid area. Bethel Park's a above average school district. It's suburban, like higher priced area. It's going to be a little tougher on the rental side of things in both of those areas, but each of them do have sections that are kind of older homes. Like Bethel has a specific section, even South Park as well, that's kind of like older duplexes that you can still get cash flow. So those can be good because you're getting them a little cheaper to the point where the numbers make sense, but you're in these good school districts, good suburban areas surrounded by, some of them are like five, six, $700,000 homes around there. So that would be the only areas in there that would be more rental side of things rather than most of it's probably kind of flip territory at this point. But if you're all right with maybe leaving some money in the deal, get a nice single family home or something in these areas, they can be good long term investments for sure.
All right, so MJ wants to stir up some trouble right now. So he wants to talk about the school community, which his membership just expired. So what? I asked him if he's going to renew it, and he said, "Let's discuss on air." So what do you want to discuss, man?
Yeah, so I would like you to relay the message to Zuber, and it just is no hard feelings or anything. I feel like it's $20. I get it. Oh, $20 you spend, whatever, blah blah blah. However, I feel like if I'm gonna spend any amount of money, I want some type of exclusivity. You know, Zuber post everything on everything, so it's like, what's the real big catch or benefit to be exclusively on the school community if it's available everywhere else? I want to pay for something that's exclusively for school members, if that makes sense. I don't want, okay, he do a Zoom interview with somebody, special guest to add value, cool, good. Then the next day or two, it's on YouTube or it's in a Facebook group. I mean, what's the, you
But
know?
you can't ask the questions, right? So if you attend
Okay.
live, you can ask the question. But there, that is a lot of people's and thoughts, and that was, a lot of people like, yeah, like you're saying, right? I thought it was going to be exclusive stuff, but I guess what he would say is that you're only getting the recording, right? Like if you had questions that you wanted to ask live to this speaker or individual person, then you attend the live and you can get your question answered, right? So even like I think Sunday was what's his name again? Um Hernandez. I can't think of his first name,
Adrian,
but
Adrian.
Adrian was on, right? And he didn't get to all the questions, and he said, "Hey, whoever has questions in here, take my number down and shoot me your question, and I'll get back to you, or I'll reply to you, or whatever." Right? So I guess that's where you would say the membership comes into play, is where if you can attend these live calls or school calls, then you have direct access to ask your question. But that is a good point. I mean, I think a lot of people do feel kind of like yourself, where that you thought there was, your thinking is that there's going to be more stuff that are not put out on YouTube, right? So that's definitely what a lot of people have said also.
Isn't a
Um,
lot of it the community aspect too? Like that's a big appeal of school in general is having access to a like-minded community that you can chime in with and network with as well.
Yeah, so definitely that is part of it too. So there is a lot of people that take advantage of that also, as far as where they have a question or something that they're so like Steven, for example. Hate to mention, but Steven's is new to school. He's in Canada and trying to navigate what market he wants to look for or where to invest. And he introduces himself in the community, and then there's people that are welcoming him, and I just say, I'm an out-of-state investor in Pittsburgh, blah blah blah. And then he starts reading through past his, maybe comments, feeds, and he starts seeing like who's investing out of state, and he starts reaching out to those people to maybe pick their brains a little bit, and then he kind of gets some direction. So definitely, it's you have opportunities to throw your questions out there and find people that are in kind of your area. But to MJ's point too, I think a lot of people do feel that way too. Like they thought there was going to be a little bit more stuff that were exclusive to the school community, and yeah. Um, Hyder says school is my personal hack. When I pay, I stay. So $20 a month is my conviction cost, all other benefits aside. School allows for DMs for specific networking. Yeah. Um,
It's kind of like your
so
tribe, right? It's like a tribe you're a member of in a way.
it is. And Zuber does his best to, and I don't know who they are, but supposedly he's kicked out individuals that were either probably trying to sell stuff on their own or in, maybe bad seeds, I guess. But
Yeah.
supposedly he's out about 20 individuals, but I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure who they are. Um, TradeBetter has a question for you though, MJ. Are you still okay investing in Chicago? Is there ever a point you would invest in places like Indiana?
Yeah, I mean, Chicago for me, I kind of found like a sub market that, the numbers making sense. I see a lot of value and potential in the area. However, to your other point of the question, I will invest in Indiana because I just like Indiana from the simple fact it's close to Chicago and it's very landlord friendly. So, and getting political a little bit, I'm really realizing the good and the bad of Democratic cities and states versus Republican cities and states. They both got their pros and cons, though. It's how you look at it, and you can leverage one to the other. Like more Democratic cities are for employees and stuff, and more like bosses and entrepreneurs are for like the Republican states. So, it just depends on where I'm at in my career and stuff like that. I absolutely shift or pivot to Indiana. Yeah.
And Jeremy, I'm pretty sure Pittsburgh is your market, right? Are you ever thinking about investing somewhere else or?
I don't really have a reason to, at least with residential multifamily. And I think it's just knowing the market like I do, that makes a big difference as well. Anywhere, if you know the market, every nook and cranny of it, and what works, what doesn't work, it's almost like insider trading in the stock market, in my opinion, to take
Yeah,
advantage of it.
no, yeah, like I said, like I touched on earlier, Jim, who's in California, so an expensive market. He's a contractor out there. He's doing some of his own flips out there. Hey, what's up, Hugo? What's up, man? Yeah, I keep meaning to. I gotta message you, man. I need to get you back on because someone keeps wanting to have like a Bitcoin person on. So I need to get you on before that person unsubscribes. But yeah, so Jim, he's a contractor out in California, and he's looking for another market. So there is a lot of people that were investing in Gary, Indiana, because of Millennial Mike, and Jim would try to get answers, or he would send questions to these people in Gary, Indiana, and I'm not sure if they're just overwhelmed and they're just super
Yeah, I
busy.
think he told me like he'll get back to him like weeks later.
Yeah, so that's why after one
What?
of our lives you were on, and he basically reached out to you that day, and you got back to him that probably like right after the live, and he said that's kind of like what he's looking for, right? Like that type of relationship, or even like just that in type of information, or your answers to his questions that you were able to provide. So uh, I think that's why he's leaning a little bit more towards Pittsburgh because of those reasons, and being able to get that type of connection in a sense, right? So, like you said, right, it's also it's like a cheat code in a sense, right? So, like whoever your agent is or whoever you're working with, make sure they know a lot about that market, and even just the communication. I think, right, like that's Jim sends them a question, it's going to be like weeks for him to get some sort of reply. I mean, that,
Crazy.
yeah,
I don't know.
exactly, right.
Standards, I guess. Not everybody has as high of standards. I don't know.
Ned says, so this is going back to the school community. Where, oh, did he? Oh, yeah, there it goes. There would be more consistent value if Zuber, I guess, added tiered discussion rooms for higher costs, in my opinion. As he has grown, the community has shift. As he has grown, the community has shifted more to holding the hands of newcomers. That's okay because a lot of us were there for that, but it has shifted away from personal growth in many ways, in my opinion, for people of different levels. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely could see the benefits of having like a tiered system in the school community. Because a lot of times, when a new investor comes, a new person joins, it's kind of the same question they're posting, that was answered, or someone already posted like 4 weeks ago, and that was a new person that came, right? So a lot of these things are repetitive, right? A lot of the questions that come in is answers or questions that came up like just a few weeks ago for that other new member to the community. Oh, John's here. He says he's sick, deconstructing dreams. Go check out his YouTube channel, please. Go subscribe. We're help trying to grow his channel also. And Jeremy, that's what I've been meaning to ask you. I don't know if you want to post yours, because when I looked up Jeremy Taggart on YouTube, there was like 10 Jeremy Taggarts. So I didn't know which one was your actual YouTube channel. But if not, go check out Jeremy on Instagram, or go look for his bigger. Maybe just type in bigger pockets Jeremy Taggart. That would probably be the easiest video to pop up for him. But John is an older dude. He's trying to hit retirement. He knows the time is he has a shorter window, so he's doing the short-term rental space in Reno. But he bought VR glasses, and he's using that to paint something on the wall. Like, I guess that's what people are doing now. They're putting the VR glasses to see the image and following that as they're painting. But he says he's causing more harm than good by using knocking over cans, and so I told him to video it. That'd be a great video of him painting using the VR glasses. Let's see. Thanks for tuning in though, because supposedly you said you're sick, John. But I'll put your channel in there soon. But Ned says that kind of immediate connection people want is going to cost more than $19. Yeah, definitely. I don't know, Ned. Are you still in school? I'm not sure. You were initially. I'm not sure if you're. It sounds like you're not there anymore. Let's see. Yeah, anything else you guys want to talk still more about the video? Anything else you guys want to share that you're working on? I know MJ, it's been a while, so maybe I don't know what do you got going on right now?
I'm in the process of getting my third property, single family rehab loan. So I'm just going through the motions and kinks with that right now. Can you hear me? You heard me?
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to get John's link in the chat. So my next question I always bring up to you every time I see you though is, are you going to be in Vegas for the next event?
It's too early to decide, man. So it's official. It will be in Las Vegas, the third year in a row, the All-Right event.
Yeah, he's gonna. I think that's just his thing. He just wants it
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
If someone wants to take the reins, and I know Jack had visions of starting one in Pittsburgh, like an East Coast
On the
version.
East Coast. Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
that's kind of Jack's vision.
That'd be cool.
So yeah, Jeremy, if you want to help out Jack, set that up, and but yeah, he does. He would definitely would be interested in it, but I think it's just someone else would kind of have to take the lead on it and provide all the information for him, and he would have an event out there because now that he's in Vegas too, it's a lot easier for him to um, access whatever resources he needs or plan the event. He's basically in that area now. But he
Yeah.
supposedly he has the headliner lined up. That's what I've heard from him. But he's not he doesn't pay these people, so it's hard to get like a definite. But supposedly there's a headliner lined up, and he'll same thing. He'll confirm as it gets closer, because even like Graham Stephan wasn't known until the last minute, right? Like that week. Um,
Graham
Yeah. I mean,
Stephan
at
lives in
this point,
Vegas, right?
oh, go ahead.
yeah, Graham Stephan is, but he usually I think was in some kind of traveling stuff in that time. So initially, when Zuber asked him last year, it was kind of like, oh, like pretty much 90% chance I won't be able to make it. And then like as it got closer, he's like, hey, maybe it's about 50% now. Whatever plans I originally had is kind of falling through. And then as it got closer, it was like, oh, you know what? There's a good chance I might be able to make it. And like it wasn't until like that week of the event, Graham called Zuber and said, oh, okay, I can make it. He confirmed that I could make it. So that's why Zuber kind of changed around the scheduling of the speakers, but he didn't even know until that like basically week that Graham was going to be there. Um,
I need to come out to the next one.
Yeah, man. There's like national parks that you can be hitting up while you're there. It's down. Oh, well, you can, I don't know. I forget. Sorry, man. I don't, if fiance, wife, I don't know what it is now, but
Wife.
yeah, yeah, but yeah. So you can tell it's for Valentine's Day trip because it falls on Valentine's Day is on Saturday this year that event. Um, Flavio, what did Flavio? I don't see his comment. Hider, it says thanks, Flavio. I have no idea what that is. I don't see. Okay. Troy's here. I'm not surprised that they're overwhelmed between Mike, Lindsay, Frank, and other ORAC crew investing in Gary. Plus, Angelo came to Vegas to sell Gary too. That's true, but I think so. That was always my concern with some place like Gary, where it's such a small market that it can get overwhelmed fairly quickly, like the resources. So, I mean, Pittsburgh is not like top of mind in a sense, but to me, it would I would consider a still a bigger market in a sense, right? When you look at like housing statistics and whatnot, it falls within that top 50 housing market type things,
Yeah, I
right?
think
So
it's like middle of the pack, like 22, 23 as far as like biggest metro
yeah,
areas.
so compared to someplace like Gary, where you don't probably find it,
Smaller,
anywhere.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
set, what do
So
they call it? Third tier city or something.
yeah. So that was always my concern somewhat with the Gary market, and that's what it seems like is happening. Is kind of getting overwhelmed with the amount of investors that are coming. That maybe their resources and even being able to assist the people that are coming there is getting
Yeah,
a
because
little.
that in a third tier city like that, they don't have like they literally can take over a whole market. Out of
Yeah.
state investors, whereas like you wouldn't see that in a bigger metro, I'm sure, to a degree, a little bit. I mean, we're seeing a little bit, but
Yeah.
it's a small subset of the overall economy, housing market.
Um. Flavio, Vegas event or lobby? No, Vegas event is going to be the real ORAD event. No, he's talking about. Are you going to the Bigger Pockets event, Jeremy? The Bigger Pockets one in Vegas, the BP Con.
I wasn't planning on it.
Oh, because Dion is a what is it called? Speaker. I don't know, not
A
guest
keynote
speaker,
speaker.
keynote speaker. Yeah. So, but the joke is that people are going to go to LobbyCon where they're going to go and just hang out in the lobby of the event because it's like I think if not, it's like $1,000 for the event itself to actually go inside.
It's decently expensive, yeah.
Yeah. So the joke was that people are going to go to LobbyCon and just go and hang
So they
out in
don't
the
have to
lobby.
pay for it.
Yeah.
Oh,
um,
tailgate the real estate event.
oh, okay. Here's a good one. Harrison says, "Would you guys go to the event if Meet Kevin was the headliner?" MJ, what about you?
I'm more of a fan of Thatch Nguyen, me, Kevin, whatever. But to answer your question, I never answered it. More than likely, I might go to Vegas because it's like it's cold in the Midwest. Escape the cold, get some heat, and if ain't nothing else playing or whatever, it's like why not? I would want it to be in a different location, but I get the idea of trying to get it better every year, and you got the systems down packed, so it's like why not continue to do it in Vegas? I guess. But for me, it had to be Thatch Nguyen as the headliner for me.
Jeremy, does Meet Kevin get you interested in attending or no? I mean,
I've seen some of his videos. He seems like he knows what he's talking about. I mean, sure. I think a lot of people dislike him because of his personality, maybe. Is that
he's definitely kind of got to. Well, I mean, I think that's what his brand is now, right? It's more that
yeah.
social media kind of clickbaity. He's kind of gone away from his original type
Actual
stuff. Yeah.
info.
But let's see. I was gonna mention. Oh, so MJ, to your point though, I this is just my take on it. I think I don't know because I only met you the last day, or actually even when the event was done, the first one. But I think now that more people know who you are in the community, and you're, we're connecting with more people in the chats and things, I think attending this year, if you can, it would be a lot more enjoyable and more beneficial too, just because now it's almost, I felt, even for me, like even that first year, it almost felt like you went in blind in a sense, where
Yeah.
you're still getting to know people. It's you're trying to, year two, it
Put
was
a
just like you
face to a
already,
name and stuff like that.
yeah. And year two, you kind of just hit the ground running. Like it was like we got there and just like boom, and people know each other, and so that'd be my
Yeah,
take
that's
on it.
another good point because at that point I have another rental and it'll be a rehab one too. And for me, it's like I feel like this year that passed, I had got another turnkey. So it was like, well, it's only so much I can learn in this space. Even though it's still a lot to learn, it's like, well, but now I'm doing a rehab and stuff like that. Now I can engage in different conversations with different people about something new that kind of can engage my attention. Because real estate is slow and boring, let's just admit it, especially in the beginning. But now I kind of got some type of excitement now on the way with this new property that I am going to acquire. So more than likely, it's like I'm gonna say 75% right now that I would attend the Vegas event because yeah.
All right, cool. Steven says, gotta go cut hair. Jeremy, he'll reach out to you once he gets a better feel of Pittsburgh. Um, Casey, so Casey's done with California too. He's out of there, but he's also like, I'm not a
Isn't
fan of.
everybody?
Yeah. Well, actually, there's some people that are staying. I mean, a lot of it's for their kids, their family, and maybe once the kids get old, they might leave. But Casey says, I'm no longer a fan of Meet Kevin. Used to be. Curtis is here. PE turned RE. So, like we talked about earlier, kind of the initial focus of the beginning part of this live was about the system being rigged, and is poor a choice and whatnot. But Curtis, as we touched on, like house hacking, he's the individual that his first property he got, he boarded up a room, and he based that was his first house hack. He didn't have a shower, like we kind of was joking about, shower at the gym, shower at the girlfriend's house, shower at the mom's house. But that's how he got his foot in the door, and now I believe he's on his second house hack. He's a big part of the Tacoma Phi meetup, so he's doing a lot of cool things out there. The only weird thing is he's this big football player dude, and he's afraid of birds. The last live we were talking, and he says he cannot. He doesn't understand. The birds are everywhere. They're in the sea. They're in they're in the sky. You
You
can't get
can't
away from
avoid
it.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know this is a corny joke. So I'm pretty sure you don't like the Atlanta Falcons, right? Being a Bears fan.
Oh, well, Curtis hates the Bears. He'll probably be a Falcons fan before a Bears fan. But
Oh, okay.
someone from Jeremy's team is here. Liam is here. So thanks for stopping by. Is Liam? I know I've never personally talked to him or met him, but is he kind of the lead for your team now, or now that you're focusing more on the social media or lead generation side?
Yeah, Liam was the OG agent #1 on the team, so he's been there from the start.
He says, "Oh, okay. Yeah, Steven. Yeah, but Steven, I work with Jeremy on the sales side. Feel free. Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, Steven's in the school community, Liam. So he's in Canada. Yeah, and he's looking to invest in a out of state market. So he's kind of seen some of us in the school community in Pittsburgh. So it's piqued his interest. So he's been reaching out to us, and definitely we told him reach out to you folks at Jeremy's team. So be on the lookout for that. Let's see. Hyder says, I'm staying in California, not running from the ridiculous. You are stubborn, Hyder. I will admit that. um, yeah. Anything else, you guys? Yeah, just can wrap it up with whatever you want. I know. Oh well, Jeremy was on the last time with the one gorilla versus 100 men, so I know his take on that. So have you been? Do you know about that, MJ?
Yeah, of course. That's the new hotness, right? The new trending
Yep.
topic on our social media platforms. So, what's your question exactly?
Who's gonna win? So no weapons, right? 100 men, no weapons, in an arena. We'll just so we'll keep it simple in an arena. Who's gonna win?
I think, and I'm very confident that the gorilla will win because the gorilla go embarrass 20, 30, 40 of them, and then the other 40, 50 go see what the gorilla is really capable of, and just get out of there. So I don't think it'd be no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone knows my take already. I can outrun the big dudes, so I'll let, like I said, Andy, Val guys take the brunt of it, and I'll get the gorilla when me. The small dudes will get him when he's tired. Yeah,
Okay,
I don't
one
know.
last question, Mark, and
Yeah.
I'll let you go. How much is minimum wage in Hawaii? I'm assuming it's based off cities and stuff like that, but Maui or whatever. Just curious.
It's gonna be $16, I believe, in
In
2026. Yeah,
Hawaii?
yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, they're having we probably are very similar to California in a lot of ways. I think not as bad to some extent. The one thing that definitely hurts Hawaii is, California definitely has probably better job opportunities, so it kind of maybe offsets
Job
somewhat of the.
market.
Yeah, so a lot of, but the one thing though with remote work now, you do see a lot of people coming to Hawaii to do remote work. So, they're making decent wage, or they're making good wages with a remote position. But as far as strictly jobs that provided in Hawaii, that's where the struggle is. A lot of it is tourist based, or the tourist industry, but you also get the pushback from like the local people for the tourist side, because it's like, oh, you're only catering to the tourist industry, and you're only building these hotels, and you're not providing homes for the local
The
people. So
locals.
there's always that pushback, and definitely during the shutdowns and everything, our economy went to the shitter because nobody was able to travel, right? So it definitely showed the reliance, or the problems we have with being reliant on that as the I guess
The
the
tourism.
biggest
That's the main
tourism,
thing.
right? Hawaii is always pushing, because a lot of people from Hawaii. So Vegas is considered that ninth island, right? A lot of people from Hawaii always go to Vegas to gamble and whatnot. So everyone is always trying to lobby and push for legalizing gambling in Hawaii. And
Don't do
nobody.
it. Is Hawaii a democratic state?
Oh, we're blue as, yeah, we're that's
Okay,
what I'm saying.
okay,
We're very like
okay,
California, yeah. So
okay, okay.
but they want to leave. So, and then part of the thing is, some people want to, so a lot of cruise ships comes in, so a lot of people want to like allow gambling on the cruise ships. So, you don't necessarily are building gambling facilities in Hawaii, but the cruise ships, you can do legalized gambling. So I don't know. So
Yeah,
that's always a talk.
yeah, yeah. And I thought about Hawaii too because I was looking at some stuff. Hawaii and Utah, the only two states that gambling is illegal, and so yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, yeah, it's you're definitely very, very blue. Um, Harrison Solomon, you can afford sleeping bag on. Yeah, yeah, no. So we, same thing. We do have a very big homeless issue in Hawaii. A lot of it is, just like California, right? The weather is year round, pretty, nice. So, people aren't going to freeze to death typically, in the wintertime. So, I don't know the full details of it, but and I don't know, but there was a lot of places that were giving people like one-way tickets here, supposedly, or part of programs, and a lot of homeless people ended up here with these one-way tickets, and that's how they ended up here. So there, we do have a lot of homeless people, and a lot of it is because the weather. They don't have to worry about them freezing and whatnot. Um, what is the average long-term rent, two bed, one bath in Hawaii? I'm assuming he's asking. You're probably looking at two bed, one bath, probably 3,000, low threes. Yeah, but so my
You could
house,
rent a mansion here for that.
my house is renting. So I'm renting out my house now, and I moved back with my parents and to drive to. they're getting old, so just helping them out. But my house, my house rents for my 3 bedroom, 2 bath rents for 4,400. Yeah, so it's been a good financial help to me renting out my house.
That's a salary.
Oh no, yeah, it's huge. Now I just got to get rid of my son's mom, and then I'm good. But other than that, that's that's my biggest expense right there.
Okay, one more last question. I said my last one was
Yeah,
the
man.
last one, but this is
No,
the
no, go
last one
ahead,
for real.
man. No, go
Okay,
ahead.
so who owns a lot of Hawaii properties? Is it locals? Is it foreigners? Is it government? Like just based off the property values over the years, like who's really benefiting off owning properties in Hawaii, in your opinion?
So I mean, you have a lot of there is a lot of local families that own properties, and it's always passed down, right? So that's where a lot of the wealth is built. And but
They
that's
never
also
sell them, probably.
yeah, but that's also part of where that trap in a sense comes because like that's how I was, right? Like I saw my parents with this, 1.5 million dollar paid off home net worth, right? So you in your head is thinking like, oh, that's all I have to do, right? Get a property, sit on it for 30, 40 years, and now I'm technically a millionaire, right? But it always goes back to that question of if you're going to be using the equity, the net worth, and things like that. But on paper, you're a millionaire. Um, but so to your point, yeah, there is a lot of local families that still own homes, but there's always a lot of foreign money coming here. Or and when I
Like
say
from Asia,
I'll say foreign as foreign, yeah, other countries, but also
California.
foreign like mainland because a lot of people are able to build up their wealth living in these lower cost of markets, because the cost of living is lower, so they maybe to build up a lot of retirement funds or reserves, and then now they're like, oh, I'm going to sell my home in Wisconsin or whatever, right? And I'm going to move out to Hawaii. So, but you have now all this cash reserves possibly built up. So a lot of people are out of state people are buying properties and to retire here. And that's what I always say, like Hawaii is a great place to visit and retire. So if you're able to retire here, it is a great lifestyle. I mean, it's amazing and the weather's great. But if you're trying to do it day in and day out and get ahead, it is definitely a struggle. And I think, part of that. And so, I definitely, so I think the last study that came out to even like for the native Hawaiians that qualify as far as the amount of blood, um, there's more native Hawaiians now living on the mainland than actually in the islands. So a lot of people are relocating. And I didn't really realize it, but so they do have programs on Hawaiian homestead lands where you sign, you're on this waiting list, and if you're fortunate enough for your family to get on it, then you basically get housing for free in a sense, or at a very like $1 a year kind of thing, right? And I never understood. So my friend said that program it is helpful, but it's not being used the way it's supposed to be used. So it's kind of like a family should be using it to get ahead instead of stay there for 60, 70 years. So like, they should be on this property saving this money because they're not paying a mortgage or rent basically, so that their family can accumulate this money to go buy a property after that. But what's happening is a lot of these families are staying there, and because they're not paying any housing expense basically, they're living their lives and they're just occupying this land now for generations, and yet they're not owning anything. Like they're not getting that next property by saving up that money that they're not paying for housing in a sense. And that's the struggle, is where instead of helping multiple families or multiple generations, only one family is kind of benefiting in a sense. And that's kind of where the problem with the Hawaiian homestead lands is coming into play. um oh,
That's very
morning.
interesting. You don't get a lot of talk about that in general. So you being from Hawaii, born and raised, I just want to ask you directly those questions. So
No, yeah, I mean they are trying to figure out ways, they are. trying to push, and I think it's going to go into effect 2026 possibly, but just like a lot of places, they're trying to allow more ADUs. So initially, you could only have one ADU per property, or they call it Ohana Suites out here. There's different restrictions to each one, but now they're going to start allowing two basically ADUs per property, depending on the lot size. So that's something that should help. But you're always in that push and take, right? It's kind of you want because tourism is so big, you want the island to look a certain way. So you have to leave a lot of this land to some extent because you want it to attract the tourism and you want these certain things. But then you're also limiting on housing in a sense, right? But that's yeah. So yeah, how so Flavio says how is impacting the cost of living? Well, that's why a lot of people leave here. I mean, there's a lot of the younger generation moving to Vegas, Boise. A lot of people are leaving here, so I definitely see it. A lot of the younger families, they make that decision. Even the guys in the fire. So when I first started, I was in the federal fire department, so that's more the military bases. But because that fire department, the federal side has bases, across the country or in the mainland. Guys would transfer quite a bit. They would leave here, go to Vegas, the federal side, or even San Diego, but they would leave here to take positions in the federal fire department on the mainland. And it's sad that families are leaving, but and that's why I'm big on investing out of state. I mean, just get something if you can, right? I mean, if you house hack, if you have rent by a room, but definitely to try and get something here. I mean, you have to, the down payment, even if it's 5% for a lot of things, is going to be fairly high here. You got to make that decision, right? Um, but yeah. Oh, well, I guess maybe we'll wrap up with this one specifically for Pittsburgh, Jeremy. Harrison's asking, are ADUs in-law suites a thing in Pittsburgh?
Not really. I mean, there's existing inventory, like two houses on one lot, essentially an ADU behind a big house, but that was built maybe back in the early 1900s when things were really growing here. But as far as like building new ones, a couple of reasons why you don't really see it too much is the prices aren't high enough to justify it. So you would really make sense in the high end areas, if that. And you're gonna have a tough time getting that approved in the city limits for sure, just because they're real strict with like density and stuff and zoning. And then if you get into like some of the higher end suburbs, they're also a little more strict with zoning and whatnot. So it's just not really mainstream here for those reasons.
What about smaller units? Because someone sent me an article. I think it was from one of the Pittsburgh news or publications, but they were talking about even Pittsburgh, as affordable as it is, they're looking at building smaller homes, smaller units to help with the housing situation. Do you see that?
Yeah, I'm starting to see like tiny home, modular home, prefab home type things built in some of like the city lots, but nothing more outside of that. I don't know that the city doesn't really know what they're doing with that. Like we have so many affordable neighborhoods that they say they have issues with affordability, but there's all these untapped neighborhoods that have perfectly fine housing stock, and it's like they have their priorities backwards when it comes to that. So that's yeah, it's kind of a pain from I don't really think they are doing it the most efficient way.
Yeah, Liam says city is a nightmare to work with on the zoning stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
so if anyone wants to know more about Pittsburgh, reach out to Jeremy's team. If Jeremy can't help you or is busy, you can always reach out to Liam. Go check them out. If you want to know about Chicago or whatnot, reach out to MJ. He's doing some cool stuff there. Hopefully, both of you will be in Vegas next year at the ORAD event. It's always fun getting you folks on. And then tomorrow, I will be back with Harrison, Trade Better 99, and Kevin. Not sure what time. We'll probably adjust the time, but Kevin, self storage investor in North Carolina. He just sold his first self-storage that he did purchase. So I'm not sure how long ago he purchased it, but he sold his original one. So he's gonna kind of walk through like how he did on it and whatnot. So and then Friday I will be back. I think a lot of people are gonna tune in for that one. Alex Deacon and Omar Muhammad will be on Friday. So
Oh, that'll
another
be a banger.
yeah, so another Pittsburgh specific. So
You
we'll
got the
get
Deacon on here,
yeah,
man.
well, I told him, Alec, I told him, Jeremy said you have this sense of humor that I don't know about, so I better see it because I've always every time I make jokes to him, he doesn't really say anything to me. So I said, Jeremy says you are funny, so I want to see it on
You
camera.
got to bring it out of him.
Yeah, so I told him there's no filter, so don't worry about. Well, I mean he has to be professional because he wants to get his clients. But I told him don't worry about it. And Omar is a great. I think his interview. I had an interview with him recently, so go check out his long form video on my channel. But super super passionate dude. Great story, and that should be a fun one on Friday also. So yeah, and then we'll get you on with Omar also or Alex too, Jeremy. Just trying to mix it up, get I don't know. I don't know if Liam wants to put his face on camera. We can get Liam on here, talk about Pittsburgh
We
too.
need Liam to do more social media stuff.
All right, Liam, we can break the ice and get you on here, man. But everyone, thanks